begin. I'm gonna hit OK here. Welcome to everyone again. I'm Bumi Akinosotu, the Deputy Director of the Rangel Program here at Howard University. I'll let my colleagues on the Rangel team introduce themselves before we jump in, and Veronica as well, if you would mind sharing your slides when you're done, that'd be great. Thank you. Patricia?
Hi, everyone. My name is Patricia Scroggs, and I'm the Director of Diplomatic Fellowships here at Howard University. Welcome, and also Director of the Rangel Program, so welcome. The Rangel Scholars Program is an incredible opportunity to really spend 6 weeks thinking about what you want to do for the rest of your life, which is a pretty amazing thing. And particularly if you're interested in international affairs, because we will show you so many different possibilities and then help you get ready for it. So I don't want to steal the thunder of those who are going to tell you about the program, but this will be my 17th summer with the program. And I can tell you every single one of them has been amazing. And the scholars that have come through the program have been amazing. And, you know, we're all still in touch, and it's really, really a wonderful program. So I just really wanted to welcome you and say thanks so much for coming to this. And now we'll talk a little bit about the program, and I'm going to come back in a few minutes and also talk about how to write a personal statement. So welcome, welcome.
Thank you, Patricia. Sivan?
Hey everyone, thanks for joining us. My name is Savon Jackson, and I'm a program manager with the Rangel team, and more specifically, I help with the Summer Enrichment Program. So if you are selected for the program, you'll be seeing a lot of my face during the summer. And as Patricia was saying, it's a really great experience to learn, and we'll be talking a little bit more about some of the specifics, but great to see you all and look forward to it.
Go for it, Veronica.
Hey everyone, my name is Veronica McIntyre. I'm a program assistant with the Rangel Program, and like Savon, I work with the Summer Enrichment Program and I work with selections. So you'll also be dealing with me a lot this summer as well.
All right, as you can see, we have a wonderful team of folks, very knowledgeable. So Veronica, why don't you throw up the slides while you're doing that for everyone. We'll hold questions to the end. I'm going to talk through high-level elements of the Rangel Scholars Program. I won't go into very deep detail because we've got sessions on our YouTube page, and we'll also have future sessions. We want to make sure we give Patricia and our wonderful Rangel Scholar alumni a chance to talk about writing a great personal statement. So first things first, the Rangel Scholars Program is a part of the Department of State program, along with the Rangel Graduate Fellowship, which I'm sure you all have heard of in some form or fashion. But the program really is designed to prepare young people for careers in international affairs and promotes the State Department's mission of diversity and excellence. The Rangel Graduate Program and the Summer Enrichment Program, while connected, are not, it's not like, we hope that scholars become Rangel Fellows and that they apply to it, but it's certainly not required. This is an important distinction here. I've been asked this many times. So, but if you're interested in just figuring out what's happening in the world of international affairs and foreign policy, and just what all the skills are and the sort of ecosystem of opportunities, the Summer Enrichment Program is exactly that. Veronica, could you, on my screen, I'm just seeing a button that says continue here. Is there a way to bring up the slide?
Let me see, let me stop sharing real quick. Sorry, it was going automatically, so let's share again.
So while that's coming up, the Rangel Summer Enrichment Program is 6 weeks, as Patricia said. We're hoping that it will be in person, but we're still working out that aspect of the program. The scholars will participate in 2 classes, the political economy and history of the U.S. foreign relations. They will take, the biggest part of the program is meeting with professionals from all walks of the foreign policy world. You can go to the next slide, Veronica, and talking to folks to get a deeper understanding of foreign policy issues. These are folks at think tanks, media space, of course, Department of State, and other federal agencies that have a footprint in international affairs, foreign policy, national security, international development, so on and so forth. So the requirements of the program: you must be a U.S. citizen, you must have a cumulative GPA of at least a 3.2, and you must be a full-time undergraduate student with at least sophomore status. And sophomore status is roughly 30 credits or so, is what we tell applicants. If you're in a particularly interesting situation, feel free to send us an email. We're happy to talk through the eligibility component. If you're a senior graduating in May of 2022, you are also welcome to apply to the program as well. There's no stipulation that you cannot apply. You just need to be registered full-time in the spring of 2022 in order to apply. So we do lots of networking, lots of visitors, meeting with visitors and influencers and leaders in the foreign policy space. And then those, of course, you all getting a chance to learn your cohort and really build strong relationships with people. I forgot to mention the writing course. There is a writing course because it's fundamental to the work of international affairs that you are able to communicate in written. Patricia is going to talk a little bit about that through the personal statement context, but we're so serious about it that we make it a staple of the program. The scholars do receive tuition, travel, room and board, and a stipend of $3,300, which we increased. Thank you, State Department. All right, next slide, please, Veronica. All right. So as I mentioned, this is kind of a repeat of the previous slide, but one thing about the Rangel Scholars program is that, as Patricia said, it really is an opportunity for you to really hone in on what it is you want out of this space if you're not really sure. So when we assign you a mentor, when you're in class, when you are meeting with government officials, it really is important that the scholars feel like they see themselves in the positions that they're being exposed to, or the organizations that they're being exposed to. The program is really only as good as you make it. And I'm sure our Rangel Scholar alumni can talk about, their strategies for surviving the intense 6 weeks that they undergo and that they participated in when they were scholars. So you can certainly, when we get to that point, ask them about their personal statement, but also feel free to just ask the Rangel Scholars about how they were able to make the most out of their Rangel Scholar experience. All right, Savon, I will pass it to you for the next conversation.
Perfect. All right. And so with this piece, I think we may start off with Patricia to give a little bit of background on the personal statement and some of those elements.
Okay, so as part of the application, you have to write a personal statement. And in many ways, this is probably the most important part of the application because it is the panel's introduction to you. This is your chance to tell them what you want them to know about you in the way that you want them to know. And it's not easy to do because it's a 500-word max. And quite honestly, it's probably easy to write 1,000 words, right? Because you guys have done so much. But 500 means that you really have to think through what it is you want to say and what it is you want to the panel to know about you. Again, they're looking for, good writing, well organized, but basically, I think for any personal statement, there are 3 questions that you're answering. The first one is, why do I want to participate in the Rangel Summer Program? The second is like, what do I bring, or why would I be good? Why should you pick me? And the third, which isn't a separate part of the essay, but it's still really important, is, who am I? It's supposed to be a personal essay. And so you have to let them see a little bit of you. That's not a separate spot. It's how you talk about your motivations and your preparations, but you should come through your values, what formed you, why you want to go here needs to come through. It should not seem to be generic. My first suggestion when you write a personal statement is put away all your other personal statements. And you guys have probably written a lot. The last time you got an internship or the last time you had to apply to something, and those were probably great. The problem is you were writing for something else. And you may want to come back later and bring in some of that great language that you worked out. But for right now, I really want you to step back and ask yourself the two main questions, which is, why do I want to participate in the Rangel Summer Program? Which is really, why do I want a career in international affairs? Again, and let's go on to the next slide. Why? Can anybody tell me briefly what might interest you?
Hello, my
Hi.
name is Diane, and I am Dominican, first generation, and so I'm actually in DR right now. So seeing this kind of opportunity to like explore where making a difference between international like affairs would be something that I would like to go into a career for. So that's like kind of a motivation to apply to this program.
Absolutely. When you want to make a difference, that's really why most people go into international affairs. You want to make things better. You want to have an impact. You want to promote positive change. It's sort of the concept of public service. And that's really, really important in this program. So that would be a great thing to talk about. What else might you talk about? And I like the fact, and actually in there, in terms of what you were saying, is you obviously really enjoy being overseas too. You like international interactions, right? That you've chosen to be in the DR right now. So that could be another really important reason for wanting to do it.
Hi, so similar to what Deanna said, I've been exposed to like an international perspective pretty much throughout my whole life, which has really influenced the way that I think about the world. And so I wouldn't just want to make an impact in my own community, but also help other communities that are different from my own and learn from them and see how I personally can grow like professionally and like in my own personal life by like interacting with those communities.
Yeah, I think that's great. Probably the worst things we can do as diplomats or people that are overseas is to come in and say, hey, I'm American. I would like to tell you how to run your country, or let me tell you how we do it, because really nobody wants to hear that, because how we do it doesn't make any sense often for other countries. And so real change comes from dialogue and, you know, being able to talk about some basic ideas, but the way you're going to get there is going to be very different because cultures are very different. You know, value systems sometimes are different. So I think that's great. And again, it's bringing a different perspective also. Coming from a background that's diverse is important because you bring a different perspective. So like when we sit around a policy table, and I spent 20 years as a Foreign Service officer before I came to this, we want people with different perspectives. You don't make good policy if everybody sits down and agrees with one another. You want people who have different ideas. You want to challenge one another, because that's the only way you can really think through a decision, is to make sure you've seen every side. And so that's, you know, another reason diverse voices are really important. And people that come with backgrounds like yours will often see things a little bit differently. And that's really valuable to any group. Good. I think you guys got it. So, you know, it could be because I'm interested in an international affairs career. You know, maybe for some of you, you haven't had as much. Some of you, you know, it sounds like you've grown up with it. Others, maybe you haven't had as much of a chance to do some of this stuff, but you're really interested and you want to come in and be able to do it. Maybe you want to, you know, meet mentors, work, you know, get to know other people who are in the career. You know, you want to develop your professional skills. These are all great reasons. You may have your own reasons, but this is probably one of the hardest parts of a personal statement. People are pretty good about talking about themselves, but they're not so good about talking about why. So take a few moments and then take a few notes. Say, I want to make a difference, really enjoy international engagement, want an international career, want to enhance my skills, or whatever it is. Just make a list before you start writing. And then when you start writing, you're going to make sure you cover all those things. You can come back and make it prettier if you feel like you need to at the end, but make sure the substance is in there. And that comes from just jotting down the points you want to make sure you make before you start writing. Next, please. The next part is, what do I bring? And you can talk about so many different things. Again, experiences, multicultural experience. You've had experience living or working overseas. You don't have to have been overseas, by the way, for this program. Maybe your multicultural experiences here in the United States. Have you worked with refugees? Do you come from a really diverse city or town or family? Or again, your volunteer work. So don't feel like you have to be overseas, but do make, a case for your interest in multicultural issues. Again, interested in working with different cultural or socioeconomic groups. We're always really interested in that. Any type of public service experience, work, volunteer, internship, community service, public service, same thing. That's really, a core of our program. Your academic skills, right? So maybe some of you are studying international affairs, but maybe some of you aren't. Maybe you're studying psychology, or maybe you're studying something else, but those things all matter in looking at international affairs. So you may want to link that in a little bit, and that may make for a very interesting story. And then if you can highlight any type of leadership experience, academic or work. Again, you have to pick and choose. So it's not like you're not going to repeat the rest of your application, because you're going to get to write this stuff other places in the application. We're going to ask you to list where you've worked. We're going to ask you to list what type of activities you're involved in on campus. We're going to ask you to list stuff. This is the place where you bring it all together into a narrative that shows why you want to do this program, and how it almost is the next logical step to get to what you're interested in. Something that's in here that I do want to highlight is overcoming obstacles. So many people who come through our program come from backgrounds where they are naturalized US citizens, first generation American, first generation college students, perhaps have had some financial need, or have had an experience which makes their experience of this country a little bit different than other people. To us, this is wonderful. But we also know that sometimes when you're the type of person who's had to work twice as hard to get to where you want to be, right? That's a good thing, because you've had to be really resourceful and really resilient. And those are the two of the most important concepts when it comes to working internationally, is people that know how to roll with the punches. They know how to find a way around things when they have to. And that's often something that comes from having a diverse background. So if that is something that kind of characterizes you too, please feel free to discuss that too. You don't have to go into everything, but just, again, if you had to be resourceful, if you had to work hard, if you had to have a job while you were in college or whatever, and you want to talk about that a little bit, that's another thing you can put in your personal statement. You can then also mention a variety of skills we're interested in. You talk about leadership, or your interest in foreign languages, writing, presentation or oral communication skills, representation, intercultural management, crisis management. Again, there's a lot going on in there, but these are all sets of skills that are very useful. So we have experiences and skills and academics, and you're going to pick a few things, put them all together, and then tell us again why you think you would be a good fit for this program. Same thing, do not write before you think. Think and write down the few things that you want to make sure that you get in there. Then you write it, you kind of get it in. It may not look beautiful right away, right? Then you write it again, you show it to somebody, but by the time you finish it, that you're saying what you want to say. And here's again, the thing I talked about earlier, make sure you're coming through in the way you're talking about your motivations and your preparations. Could this have been written by just anybody? Hopefully not. This is your story. And so you should come through in the way you write it. Next, please. Okay, so how do you start a good personal statement? Well, there's different ways, but you kind of want to grab people's attention, right? Some people will start with a very short anecdote, about something that happened that got them interested in international affairs. Other people will just get to the point and tell you, this is why I'm interested in international affairs. For this reason, and this reason. Really, either one of those is fine, or maybe you're going to do both. If you have the more, this, you might, in your next couple of paragraphs, be a little bit more expansive so we can, kind of feel you coming through. If you're going to use an anecdote, great way to start. But remember, you only have 500 words, so keep the anecdote short. It's not the time he said this to me, and then I said that to him, and then I told him. You probably want to summarize that part. Get to it. What is it that you learned? Why does it have to do with you being here or wanting to do this? But again, either way, kind of grab the attention and make sure they can see very clearly why you want to do this. Now, then you're going to write a few supporting paragraphs. They should be clearly organized, around specific themes. Maybe one is going to be about, again, maybe we're going to do motivations versus preparations, or maybe you're going to take it more chronological. I'm talking to you about my family background, and then my undergraduate, and then overseas. You can organize it any way you want, but organize is important. We don't want to feel like we're, jumping around trying to figure out what it is you want to say. One thought per paragraph, make sure you have a good topic sentence, and then end with a conclusion. A conclusion can be very brief, but your conclusion generally reiterates your interest in the program. So don't forget to do that, and then proofread, please. It's not only about your writing, but quite honestly, if you have punctuation errors, if you have spelling errors, that distracts people from really reading your substance. So if you could look it over, if you have Grammarly, use Grammarly, have somebody else look it over for you. You want it to be really good when you finish. Generally, because this is kind of policy sort of writing, it's clear. Your sentences can be short. They don't need to be real complex, short, to the point. Active voice. I don't know if you know, active voice versus passive voice. I went to, I don't know, I'm trying to think of an active voice. I threw the ball versus the ball was thrown, right? I threw the ball. You can feel my role in what happened, right? I'm really telling you about me, and, versus, something happened, but we're not exactly sure who happened. And I also feel the same way about the word we. So if you use a lot of we's when you write, which, very often we like to do, right? We like to do because we don't want to be taken credit, because usually we work with other people when we do things. However, if you use the word we don't know what you did and what somebody else did. So, I worked cooperatively with a group too. I reached out to. So don't be afraid to use the word I in a personal statement to really talk about your contribution to things. Again, so clear sentences, clear meaning, short to the point, a single thought per sentence. It's a page, it's 500 words, it's concise, you're getting to the point, and we know what it is that you want to say because you have diagrammed it in advance, so you make sure that the stuff you want to get across, you're getting across. Next, please. Next steps. I think that is, I'm going to turn it back over to Savon. But I will tell you before I go that I love reading people's personal statements. I always feel like I get to know people so well from doing it. And there are people to this day, I remember the personal statement that I read in 2007 because it so made them stand out. Don't feel like yours has to be that. Not everybody has the story that's so compelling, years later, people can't forget it, but you can come through and you can very clearly show why you want it and why you what you're going to bring to the group and to the experience.
Fantastic. Thank you, Patricia. Very much appreciate it. And so just right now, in terms of kind of some next steps after, like, now you have all this information, you're empowered about writing this impactful personal statement. Just some other things to keep in mind is your recommenders. And so for those who may have come to our previous sessions, recommenders are really important. So make sure, obviously, as the semester is wrapping up, try to tap on any of those professors or put it on your to-do list if your semester's already over, to thank them for a great time that you had in their class and ask them if they can write a recommendation for you. In terms of other resources that we have, be sure to check out our YouTube page to check out other past information sessions that we have and general information about the program. We have another information session that's coming up in at the top of the new year in January. Reminder about the deadline, February 15th. Seems far away, but it's a little closer than we think. So use all this information you have now, feel empowered, start creating an outline, whatever you got to do. And then as Patricia was saying, we're also here to help. We have office hours, Mondays 4 to 5, and then Thursdays from 12 to 1. This is our last week that we'll be in the office for the remainder of this year, but at the top of the new year in January, we will be returning and office hours will be continuing. And so with that, Veronica, you can click to the next slide. All right. And so today we also have the pleasure of 3 of our 2020 scholars joining us to also share some of their knowledge, some of their personal experience about their time with the program, as well as how they went about writing that personal statement. And so what we'll do is we'll have each scholar just briefly introduce themselves. So say your name, where you went and are going to undergrad if you're still in school, what you've been up to since your summer enrichment program experience, and one tip you have for writing your personal statement. And so we'll start off with Nehemiah.
Hello, everyone. My name is Nehemiah Abel. I got my undergraduate from the University of Washington in Petersburg, Virginia, and that's where I majored in marketing. And I'm a current Penn Fellow, and I go to Georgetown University, and I'm in the program for global human development. I think just one tip that I could say is really talk about your reason, to why you want to go into international affairs. I think that really stands out, because in this program you find that a lot of people over accomplished, and it doesn't do you that much service. You just list your accomplishments in the personal statement. Let's talk about really those things and why should they pick you? What's your story in terms of international affairs?
Thank you. All right, and then next we have David.
Hey everyone, hopefully everyone's doing well. My name is David Aguilar. I'm originally from San Diego, California. I received my double major from the University of California in San Diego. And I'm like my colleagues have said, I was part of the 2020 Scholars Program. Currently, I'm a 2021 Thomas R. Pickering Fellow, and I attend the School of International Public Affairs at Columbia University, where I'm currently in New York right now. And the one tip I would have is, much like Patricia said, connecting the dots and having it sort of structured in a way where you can sort of incorporate the academic, the personal, and the professional profiles that you can sort of structure in a way that you can say, hey, I have this domestic experience, or I have this international experience, and it's kind of tied to my personal or academic experience, and I want to use this as a stepping stone to do X, Y, and Z. And so I guess my number one tip would be to structure it in a way that's compelling and very concise and clear in what your main goal is with this program.
Fantastic. And then finally, Betsabe.
Hey everyone, my name is Betsabe Rojas Gonzalez. I am currently a senior at the University of North Carolina at Charlotte. I'm double major in economics and political science, and I minor in statistics. I have just currently been selected as a 2022 Pickering Fellow. So currently in the process of applying to grad school. And I think my biggest tip would be make sure that you're structuring, kind of echoing what David and Nehemiah have said, structuring it in a compelling way. One thing that I've done for all of my applications is making sure I'm telling a story, making sure that when people are reading my personal statement, I have kind of like a beginning, middle, and end, so that I'm not anywhere just kind of listing things, but really talking about like, this is where I started and this is where this led me and why it's important to me. And then coming full circle as to, and now this is why I'm applying to the scholarship program. This is what's next for me in my story. So really making sure that you're structuring like why this is going to help you achieve your end goal, or why this ties into what you've already done.
Fantastic, thank you. All right, and then Veronica, if you can click the next slide for us. All right, and so this is our last slide before we open it up to you all for some question and answer. And so set the deadline before, but I'll say it again, February 15th, right around the corner. If you have any questions for us, just email us at rangelprogram@howard.edu. There's our phone number, and we also have our office hours, as we were saying before. And so with that, we will open it up for question and answer from you all. So you can ask questions of our esteemed guests, our 2020 scholars, of staff. Go for it.
Hi guys. So what did you guys do your program virtually? Like this past summer? You did? Okay. So how were you able to take like the most out of it while being in a virtual setting?
I can go ahead and answer first. I think initially I personally was very intimidated by it being virtual. Like it was like right at the beginning of the pandemic when everything kind of started going virtual. And I think the way we got through it was really leaning on each other, making sure that we knew that we had each other's backs, asking each other questions, really getting to know each other, not just as professionals, but as individuals. And it made it a lot more fun that we had a group chat, that we were able to Zoom and FaceTime at night and kind of talk about things. It really did make it feel like we were there in person. So really relying on your cohort, getting to know them.
To add on to that, I think in terms of connecting with the professional community, like the ambassadors and people that you'll meet, send a lot of follow-up emails, just simply thanking them for the presentation and just being like, hey, I want to know more. Let's meet virtual, like for virtual coffee. I know I did that quite a bit. So that's another way to kind of keep engaged with people that you're meeting.
Yeah, just to sort of end it on this note, I'd say just like Betsy said, lean on each other and keep in contact, group chat, email, FaceTime. And believe it or not, I think the fact that we were virtual, it kind of made us closer because we were like all going into it with ambivalent feelings towards the academic component. So we were like, oh my God, econ or whatever. But at the end of the day, we all worked, it turned out great. So you just got to really just work as a team.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Nick. I just wanted to ask you a quick question. How did you find it fitting everything, all your personal experiences into 500 words? And if you guys have some time, also, I'd like to hear maybe what your personal experiences were and motivations were for becoming a Rangel Scholar.
Can I say something before they get started? I really want to hear. So you're not really putting all your personal, there's so much that's you, so you obviously can't put it all in. You're just picking a little bit of it. And you're looking at your personal statement as part of your overall package. So there are places that you're going to go into depth about what kind of work you did, what kind of volunteer work you did. So you have other places. You did get into more detail there. In your personal statement, it's just like tugging little threads and kind of melding them together rather than trying to explain everything about a job you did or something. So think of it as just kind of putting things together rather than having to repeat everything. And think of your personal statement as part of your overall packet and the rest of the packet's going to support it. So don't feel like you need to fit in everything.
Yeah, I agree with Patricia. The way that I went about it was kind of what she said earlier about not just writing. I took a couple of days when I looked at the prompt and I really thought about what was meaningful to me, like what experiences really impacted me, what experiences can I really talk about, what experiences can I really say that I had an impact on. That's what I kind of pulled from it, picking exactly the one or two things that I really felt passionate about, that I really felt were applicable to the Rangel Scholars program. And then and just to answer the second part of the question, I am a Mexican immigrant from Mexico. I was first generation college student, come from a low income family, but I always kind of knew that because of my background, I'm an organizer in Charlotte, North Carolina. So I've always worked with international communities, and I always knew that was a space that I wanted to go into. And so when I found out about the Rangel Scholars program, I thought it was a really great way to like know what's out there, because I didn't really know how to navigate US institutions. I didn't really have any connections anywhere else. So I really wanted to use the program to take that next stepping stone to be able to come into this space.
Yeah, I couldn't have said it better myself. I think it's absolutely true that the application is pretty comprehensive. Say you have 10 million awards, which I'm sure you all do. You're all very accomplished. There's going to be a segment of the application where you can sort of articulate that. But for me, I kind of utilized my personal experience, and I kind of had that, what moment fostered my impetus or my motivation to sort of want to become not just a foreign service officer, but before that even to be a part of this program, to get exposed to a network. And so for me, it was in 2019, I did an internship at the US Embassy in Bogota, Colombia. And I had done something, prior to that was public service related, but working under an FSO and living in a different country and sort of experiencing the day-to-day operations sort of propelled me to want to apply to this program. And of course, like the other ones down the line, but you just kind of have to find like what your main motivation is and piece together one or two things and put that in a very structured and compelling way that will come out across from the other applications.
One point I'd like to make too is that this can be a hard time to write, because quite honestly, many of you probably haven't done everything you wanted to do over the last 2 years. I have kids in college and they didn't get a chance to study abroad, which was kind of heartbreaking, because this is one of the big things they wanted to do in college. And some of the volunteer work and some of the things they would have liked to have done were hard, because sometimes they were, in school remotely, or it was just hard. You're all in the same boat. We've all been in the same boat for the past 2 years. Please know that the panels know that. Certainly say, I was planning to, certainly tell them what you had wanted to do, but that don't stop there. I was planning to this, I could not, this is what I did instead. And it may not be the same at all. And it may be something that you did that was, more internal. Maybe you couldn't go out and do all this, but maybe you decided to get in shape, or maybe you decided to help out with a food bank, or maybe you decided to do something else with your time. And that's compelling. No one is expecting, and we're not going to find many people who did major study abroad in the past couple of years, or spent huge amounts of time overseas. So talk about what you did do, and if there was something you had wanted to do, it's fine to mention it, but don't dwell on it. Talk about what you did do.
Yeah, they really all kind of talked about it in terms of just telling your story, and we have many experiences, and now our experiences kind of like relate to this. So really picking like 2 or 3 points and sticking to them to tell a compelling story. For me, I'm a Bruneian refugee. So I discussed how life was like in a refugee camp and how I interacted with USA agencies like USAID, UNICEF, and other things. So I talked about that, and also talked about how living in a refugee camp and coming to America has really propelled me to find my own organization in which I help refugees in my community with school stuff. So I talked about that and how that has really ultimately led to my passion for international development. So that's how I kind of went about my personal statement.
Hi, good evening. My name is Reagan Ewing, and my question is, how has your experience as a scholar influenced your or changed your current career plans and career goals?
So for me, it actually changed a lot. I was almost completely sure. I didn't actually know that being an FSO would be like a viable path for me. I thought like that would be completely out of my reach. But after I joined the Rangel Scholars Program and saw that, there was a Pickering Fellowship, the Rangel Fellowship, and other things that I could do to join the service, I completely switched my career path. I didn't even know what my major was when I was a Rangel Scholar yet. Like I just declared. So it just completely shifted my path. I was kind of walking, kind of lost, kind of seeing what would fall through. And through the Rangel Scholars Program, I figured out what I was really passionate about, what I really wanted to do with the rest of my life. And just because you get to talk to so many people who've been in your shoes, so many people who are immigrants, who are first-generation college students who have been there, they can tell you what motivates them, and you can kind of find whether or not you want to go into the foreign service. But also, I know that for other scholars in my cohort, they were able to talk to different agencies and also figure out that that's what they wanted to do, that maybe not the foreign service, but maybe I don't know, journalism, international journalism was for them, and go into that avenue. So there's definitely a lot of careers, not just the foreign service, that you'll be able to interact with throughout the summer. And I'm sure that either you'll find out that international careers are going to be for you, or that they're not going to be for you. So either way, I feel like you really get something out of it.
Yeah, absolutely. You're exposed to a whole myriad of programs and agencies. So there won't be a shortage of interactions with high-level professionals and folks who, you can relate to. And for me, it just sort of solidified it. I kind of knew where I was going to go and how I wanted to utilize this platform, the program, to do that. Become on my way to become an FSO as a Pickering Fellow. So I definitely, you'll be exposed to an array of folks and programs and resources as well. Actually, one thing that I didn't really see going into it, but that actually turned out to be such a blessing was a couple letters of recommendations for grad school when I was going through the grad school process and applications. So it's going to be networks, resources, and talking to a bunch of folks who will be there to help you out at the end of the day. So.
I think for me, because I had done my undergrad in marketing, which is business really, I didn't quite know the kind of careers that were out there in terms of international affairs. So like being a Rangel Scholar, I was like, oh, I could do this and I could do that. And there was just so many options and choices. And talking to everybody that were so helpful to tell you about their experiences. Like Batabe said, was really kind of like helpful. For me, I know that our development was a thing for me. So hearing about the Rangel and Pickering was great, but then I heard about Payne and I was like, this is great. And then Payne, this is like more my wheelhouse. So it was kind of neat to hear that.
Yeah, one piece I would like to add with that as well too is that to be competitive in the program, you don't have to be like a global studies or like an IA major, right? Like really the program is about kind of that introduction into international affairs. And so even this past summer with our most recent cohort, we had one of our scholars who was like an art curation major, but her interest was the kind of art as a tool for diplomacy. And so that was kind of where her international affairs piece came in. And through the program, she was able to kind of learn more about different initiatives and like understands like, oh, wow, like the US and other countries do a lot of different like arts diplomacy things as well. And then even we had another scholar who was interested in sports. And so, but they were more interested in like, oh, like how to like organizations like the Olympics work, and then figuring out like, oh, like our government, like the US government does a lot of programs that already deal and work within like sports diplomacy. So you don't have to be specifically within that area to qualify for the program as well too.
Hi, my name is Alima Tussar. I did have a question on the mentorship aspect. So what did it look like while you were doing the program having a mentor, and how did it affect you coming out of the program?
So the way it works, you get paired with someone who has similar interests as you. My mentor was Emma Giron. She's a Rangel fellow, and it actually really impacted me in a really positive way. We still talk to this day. She helped me through the Pickering Fellowship, kind of gave me advice on what she did for the Rangel Fellowship. We still talk to this day. We have regular phone calls. We actually became really close friends. So I think the Rangel Scholars Program does a really great job of pairing you up with somebody that you can just talk to as a friend, or like as a mentor and friend. So they kind of are there to kind of support you through the process, talking about different avenues so you can bounce ideas off of them. Personally, to me, she was really helpful, and she's a really close friend of mine now. So that's how it works. I'm sure David and Nehemiah have their own perspective as well.
Yeah, I agree. My mentor, he actually talked to me about like grad school, and he talked to me about his experience in the Foreign Service, and it was actually funny. He ended up going to Colombia, the country, like right after the Rangel program had finished in 2020. So I have him on WhatsApp. We're always talking, always picking his brain on his professional and personal experiences. So it's a really good, the Rangel Scholarship Program does a really good job at setting you up with someone who's, has similar, things that you'd like to talk about. So yeah, it's great. It's great.
I want to say, we do both we do like a formal mentor and then many informal mentors. So what you'll find is people really do love to invest in this program. They like to invest in you because you really are the future of the Foreign Service or of U.S. international presence. And it's really important. And also they love talking to you. So one of the great parts about my job is that almost anybody I ask will say yes, because you're the best part of their day often. And so what I want to say, and Nehemiah mentioned this too, is go back and reach out to people at the end. Maybe there's somebody you meet that you're like, wow, I really like this person's career track, or I just really like this person's way of looking at the world. That person can become a mentor, have coffee with a person. So there are people that just kind of organically become mentors, and you will be exposed and introduced to so many during the summer that I hope you actually find some informal mentors as well as your formal mentor.
Yeah, just to elaborate on that, actually. So I came in having, knowing somebody through the State Department where I interned, and I was able to connect one of our scholars with him. He had a big role at the ICRD. She was able to secure an internship shortly after meeting him. Like, she only met him in person once, grabbed coffee, but he helped her find her path and to utilize her passion for religion and diplomacy and find a great internship. So as Patricia said, these paths are everywhere.
And to really jump on the same thing that I was talking about, after I graduated, got my undergrad, I didn't have a job. So during the Rangel, the program, I was really like networking a little bit, trying to find myself a little some here and there. And funny enough, one of the speakers that we had, I ended up becoming interested in like what they were talking about. I reached out, and before you know it, they hired me as a fellow for the U.S. Chamber of Commerce, and I had that job for a year before I went on to grad school. So like I said, like they always been saying, networking is extremely important. As for my former mentor, we keep in touch, and he's really like been helpful in terms of the graduate school process, or even now whenever I'm just like struggling and just need somebody to vent to, he's always there to listen and always offers great advice.
I have a quick question for David, just because you mentioned your experience in working at the embassy in Colombia. Like, how were you able to get that opportunity?
So this one was kind of, if I'm being completely honest, it was just straight shot in the dark. I was doing my undergrad at UCSD at the time, and I wanted to take a quarter off to do an internship. And so I just went on usajobs.gov and applied, and got an email a few months later, interviewed, and took out a small loan and just went for it. I mean, that's really it. Nothing too special about it, but yeah, I kind of just went for it, and luckily I landed in a good spot there.
So I know a couple of you have mentioned before that you kind of have like these interests in maybe like you mentioned, the intersection between diplomacy, international relations, and sport or art. Would it be wise to put what I'm interested in, for example, I'm interested in the intersection between intelligence and international relations. Would it be wise to put that kind of information in our personal statement, or is that demonstrated through other parts of the application?
I think it's
See, that's very much something. I'm just going to say that's very much something you put into your personal statement. If that's one of those things that motivate you, that sets you apart from other people. I mean, I think it's a fascinating area too. And again, you'll just seem like you've given this some thought, and that always comes across well. Betsy, over to you.
That's what I was going to say. I mean, back to my first tip of like making making sure that you have like a beginning, middle, and end. That could be something that you say like, this is what I've done, this is what I'm interested in, and this is how the Rangel Scholars program fits in that gap. So it could definitely be a way to rounding out your story and being able to say like, this is specifically why I want to participate in the Rangel Scholars program, because I'm interested in this, because I know it will expose me to this. That's what I did on my application. So.
And that's a great piece that you highlight as well, that I think that we didn't, in terms of like the different guests that we bring into the scholars. So we have seen a lot more interest in scholars within the intelligence community. So this summer in particular, we had one student who was interning with the FBI. And so we tried to make sure that we could cater some of the sessions that we were doing to that intelligence/security community as well too. And I think that's even another great aspect in terms of kind of the cohort aspect too, is that obviously you're learning from all the different folks who we are bringing in, but the scholars also learn so much from each other as well too. And I think that's kind of the benefit of us having from sophomores to graduating seniors in terms of kind of that work experience, especially for those who may be a sophomore versus having someone who's a graduating senior, and maybe they were able to have those internships, but kind of those connections that they can also make for you as well. So kind of every piece of the program, how we design it, is to help expand that network for you all too.
Yep, agreed. And I feel like we say this each and every time we host one of these webinars, but remember, you're not interviewing like you do for the fellowships for the Rangel Scholar Program. So this is your chance to say, these are my interests, and this is what makes me me, because we don't get to sit down with you face to face and get a read on your character. So you really do want to share your interests and connect it to why you want to come to this program. And just let your personality shine, because we do care about that. We want to see that curiosity and why you want to be here.
Final questions? All right, if not, I want to say a big thank you to our scholars for joining us, as well as you all as participants for joining us as well. As we were saying before, the session has been recorded, so if you want to go back and listen to all the information that Patricia shared about those tips with the personal statement, that's in there as well too. And so, yeah, thank you again for joining. We're here if you have any questions for us, and feel free to join any of our other office hours that we have once the new year comes in, our other info sessions that we'll be having as well too. And thank you.
Thank you.